Hi, everybody. It's Dale Walsh, and welcome to Straight, Sane, and Sober for Tuesday, August. I guess it's the 23rd already. So, just want to say hello, and we'll break into the introduction, and then I'll introduce my guest, and we'll go forward. So, let's get back to it. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. It's an honor and a pleasure to have Robert Brooker, who's a veteran YouTuber. He goes back before YouTube was really that big, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Robert, but he had a show for 5.5 years on YouTube called Three Old Dudes. And as soon as I read my weekly poem, we'll introduce them and we'll get on with the show. So, this poem is called "Bride Who's Yet to Appear," and it's from my collection "Fossil Fuel for the Brain," and it goes like this. It goes, "Trying to live life without blame, I neither caused the family shame nor dishonored my dear father's name, and moves through the human game where I still seek poetic fame, and everything seems to remain the same as with words I take aim at this planet's web of pain by proving I am indeed sane. So there's no need to abort this home of lust and sport where an opposite sex to court who reflect variety of infinite sort, like ships sailing into unknown port to find women tall and short, from whom to choose an escort who one day might become consort, for matrimony is desire's last resort." So uh, that was written a while ago. But welcome, Robert. How are you?
I'm blessed to be here, and
Uh,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
okay, well, we're blessed to have you. We're very happy to have you. You're one of my most loyal listeners. You're always like blowing up the chat every show, and I really appreciate it. And it's a real pleasure to meet you at last.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy being in the chat. I really that's where I never expected to find the sense of purpose that I found there. Um, but when I went all in to connect with a person who inspires me, which who was at that time and is still Lauren Michaels Harris. Um, I was invited to a show, um, and just at the beginning, and I heard him speak for a little while, and I thought, I'm going to be hanging around here for a while. And so I went all in and connected. And there's a lot of energy all around me. There was a lot of negative energy too, but I already knew that I could take the wrapper off of that and use it to do something beneficial for me and anyone I interacted with, instead of just sitting there crying. Um, so that's what I did. And that's when everybody seems like that's got the attention of a lot of people on Facebook after a couple of months. It felt so good to just be there and engage and be that my version of an ideal audience participant in a live stream. I knew about edification, and I know why you'd want to do all that. Um, but I was also way back involved in Amway, so they teach you a lot about that. So I learned a lot about that from them. Um, on road, listening to a lot of cassette tapes recorded by the leadership then. Um, some people would know who Ron Perrier is. He passed away, but back in the day, he was the head of Worldwide Dream Builders. And I'm not in Amway anymore. That was something I married into. It was a bonus, came with the first marriage. And
You're talking about Amway, the product seller. Or?
mm-hmm, yes, I'm thinking of, I mean, the products are still around. It's the line of leadership that I was involved with. Some of them have moved on to the next stage of evolution, life. And that was a long time ago. That was 1990. Um, sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday for me, and I don't know if anyone can relate to that. When you hear one of those songs that was a favorite, and all of
Right.
a sudden you're back there, yeah, it's like that. When I think
Well,
of those people,
I was actually recruited by Amway in the late 70s, early 80s, and I never got into it that much, but I'm aware of it. But they go back a long time, and basically they're like a personal shopping network, right?
yeah, more or less, it's just an early version of what's very common now, and yeah, it was like a lot of they were the ones that were held up to the light to check for legality and all kinds of other things. So they became the example. So
Right. I
yeah,
remember they got a lot of bad publicity that wasn't really justified, right?
yeah, because they don't have power over what you do. If they don't know what you're doing as a distributor, if you're doing something shady under the table, like having people buy in like large amounts of inventory and just stuff it in your garage to get higher up in the leadership, that's front loading or something like that. It's against the law
Right.
here, and yeah, because they were getting huge tax write-offs at the same time. Um, so our organization was teaching you to just do it the right way, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but the potential, if you recognize what the value of what they're teaching, because you're learning how to speak publicly and present yourself, and while you can go to Toastmasters and get really involved in that, and it doesn't cost you anything initially. Um, there's some things that there'll be opportunities that money can't buy because you go out of your way and you stand above the crowd. There'll be people taking shots at you, but there'll also be doors opening that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Right.
Um,
I think your Grant Cardone says the more haters you have, the more popular you are. So that's sort of like, and I'm sort of in the same situation because I am in a well, it's not multi level marketing, but it's a financial services company that encourages like hiring people and everything, and so people they really encourage people to like speak out and to become public speakers and leaders, and that was sort of the impression I got about Amway is that their one of their main purposes was to build leaders.
yeah, like within organization, it was the same way, and I think on the board of directors now are a few from the Worldwide Dream Builders. Um, it got things kind of went off the rail for me doing that, and related to the Pentium 60s and 66s that had would have errors with the math coprocessor, random errors when they're doing calculation, and the software that our upline distributor that was servicing us used was called SOAR, and it would put out different totals for each time you ran the calculations because of the errors in the Pentium processors,
Right.
and that so that caused my upline to go on cash, which wasn't his fault. They tried to put a check through that was for more than what the products cost that were sent to him, and at the time, no one suspected the processors. No one suspected that it was the computer that was actually the problem, because they
Right.
had become so integrated and trusted that they couldn't be wrong, when in fact it was flawed, those two. And now, of course, we
So
can hear about it. I heard about it back then, but that's because I was always deeply involved with computing, building
right.
computers as a hobby.
So Worldwide Dream Builders you mentioned. What's that about?
Oh, that was the line of sponsorship in the Amway business, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, like there was a Bill Britt organization, and they were kind of very similar to and connected with Bill Britt. Well, Ron Prior ran Worldwide Dream Builders. I've met them before. Bill Britt was just at one of his conventions I went to. It's a Bill Britt organization here in Toronto, and I think there still may be. But Worldwide Dream Builders was based in the West Coast of the U.S. So there were two. I remember we found out there was a meeting in Cincinnati, Ohio, because Ron Prior was going to go beyond Double Diamond, because he'd been Double Diamond for years. So it was time to go to Crown. So he sponsored someone in Cincinnati. I found out about a meeting. So my friend and I drove there. We arrived first, front row center, and met Ron Prior and Dave Severn, two of my favorite speakers, and then drove back home and went to work the next day. So that's about, I don't know what it would be normally, and I wouldn't want to think about doing it now, but back then it was about 6.5 hours from Cincinnati to Mississauga, the edge of Toronto. So right. It was in the pouring rain at night. I figured, well, it's raining so hard, there's not going to be anybody out here with a radar gun checking the speeds, and there wasn't. And it was my friend Civic with the 1.6 liter, and that thing boomed. He slept most of the way home too, and
right.
Yeah.
You getting to the mental health situation. First off, why don't you tell us about your YouTube show? You said you did it for 5.5 years. It was called Three Old Dudes, and it was like basically a interview or conversation show. And what lessons did you learn from that? And
I learned how to be comfortable in my own skin and on camera. And I mean, to feel comfortable in my own skin with who I am is really an ongoing work in progress. And I would hope, just a moment, I'm looking for something to drink. I found something. Someone that who's in Hollywood, who's well known, who I always considered as one of those people that's happy in his own skin, and I wasn't the only one. Tom Selleck.
Right.
I had been watching Magnum, of course, as a young person. But there's always something about him when he's interviewed and how he could laugh at himself. And one interview, Conan O'Brien was talking about that, how he could laugh at himself like a little schoolgirl. And happy in your own skin is where that became something that stuck with me. Probably the reason one of my favorite movies is Mr. Baseball, where he's definitely happy in his own skin in that movie. And I have it on VHS and DVD.
I'm not familiar with that movie, Robert.
Oh,
Mr. Baseball.
Well, I would suggest that if you want something lighthearted and sometimes humorous to watch, it'd be worth your time to look up. I imagine it's probably easily found somewhere online. You know, those places that you go to look. Not that I look.
Right. So so why don't you give us a little history about your mental health journey? And you began in childhood, correct? Or
yeah, when I was a kid, there would be times when all I wanted to do was get out of my body, if that makes any sense. It was sort of like an itch all over, but it was more than that. And I could become violent, not at anyone, just things and food. Like the food would be on the wall often instead of on the plate. And then I don't remember, there's a lot of parts I don't remember because it wasn't always the most pleasant childhood. Seems I was interested in the medical profession around kindergarten time. Before that, based on what I've been told, getting caught playing doctor with all the girls in the neighborhood. I don't remember any of that either. But when it really started to come to a head was when I started work. It actually got to the point where it was interfering with work because I was getting tunnel vision. And it wouldn't get to the point where I couldn't see at all, but it would be like I'd be looking down. It would be just all darkness, and then there would be what I could see right at the end, and it would be far away. And
like looking through a telescope, right?
Sort of. Except
Only
it didn't bring it
dark.
closer. Yeah, it would be all dark except for like a miniature version. If your monitor the picture on your monitor suddenly got to be like 2 inches by 1 inch, and the rest was darkness. That's how it would look, except it was rounded on the. Yeah. It was. I don't know. Of course, they then asked you, "Are you using drugs?" And I'm thinking no, because I didn't want to go on antidepressants either. So they looked for a psychologist, and found one, and we related well. And he just said something. He said at the beginning. He said, "You may not believe this right now." After he questioned me for a while, he said, "You might not believe this. I think I can help you, but what I need from you is just to be honest with me. Tell me exactly how you're feeling. It's not going to be something that's night and day. It will be something that you don't really notice until you notice that you're feeling better again. It won't be a big, huge transition. It'll just be like someone turned the light on, and you just happen to look over. Then you'll just say, 'Hey, I feel all right.'" So, and that's how it happened. In 9 months, I spent weekly visits going to these psychologists, and I was able to do exactly what he said. And at one point, there's a certain woman involved, an interest of mine, who became an obsession, and I was aware she was becoming an obsession, and so she became a part of that journey, unbeknownst to her, still to this day, that he was hearing about how things went with her. But it was it kind of proved to me that anything is possible if you do your research and you connect to the right people who've done it, who want to help you, and then you do exactly what they say. So you're stepping out of faith, and if you can do that and stay out of your own way, then it'll be better than you can imagine. Lately, it was that second marriage that threw me off. I didn't see that coming. So I jumped the whole first marriage to the second, and I was feeling pretty good. I just thought, you know what? I sort of would like a partner again. I didn't need it. I wasn't lonely.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm glad it happened. It was a lot of unpleasantness, to say the least. That's how I found out how codependency and helicopter parenting can leave someone who's very highly accomplished, yet not complete if their parents aren't close by. That's how it. Yeah.
So
that's how it was.
So are you talking about yourself as a parent, or your parents?
No,
the same age?
I'm talking about my second wife's parents. I've never been a parent, unless you're counting cats. But no, never been a parent. And I was asked not too long ago.
So your second wife had children by first marriage or something, and then you married her?
Oh, okay. The first wife, we got married a little young. We were co-workers, and there were no children involved. But what happened just before we did get married, she was told by her mother and father that she had been adopted, and she spent the first 3 years of her life in an orphanage. And what she said that did was that the building blocks of her life turned to sand and fell away. That's how it felt to her. And I watched that happen, and with that, the person that I fell in love with also fell away. And what I was left with was someone that needed my help, and so she got it. and for quite a long time, everything was my fault. From the in-laws' perspective, it wasn't commonly known that when someone learns they're adopted late in life, there's like a 30% chance they'll go right off the edge, and like really lose it and not come back. She did come back, but not as the same person. But she did get married, and she had at least one kid. I know that, and she was my biggest cheerleader at marriage number 2. But that's why I married her, because that's in my mindset at the time. We were already dating. We already planned to getting married, so we just carried through because I figured that was the only way I could really help her, was by protecting her from the mindset and the desire to please her mother, and instead learn to work on herself, and just got her good doctor and home care nurses and everything we could get her that was available in our medical system. She had. It was up to her. And I left. When I left, sorry, I was at the end, my end too. I was beginning to be brought down. I had used all the tools that I'd picked up so far in managing depression day to day, and that was it. So I had to go, and I went.
There isn't anything playing right now.
Thank you, Google.
So,
I don't know why that happened.
That's okay. That just brought up a question to my mind, which is, could you comment or tell us what you feel? The degree that self-awareness is critical to recovery from depression.
It's absolutely necessary. If you don't have it, how can you examine yourself and know where you're at if you don't know who you are? It can help if you know who you are at your core, and like you absolutely know, and there'll be ample opportunities to be tested. Life likes to do that for you, and you can weather a lot, and so much so that people will ask you, how do you keep going? Sometimes the people that ask are messengers for those that are inflicting some of the conflict in your direction.
Right.
That's not lost upon me either. But I've been asked that. And I guess some people need better hobbies. And maybe I'm one of them, so that I would be susceptible to that sort of manipulation from a distance. And then I start to go into the woo-woo side of things. That's a lot of fun.
Well, I found in my own journey that there are like a few things that are, in my own journey through schizophrenia, there are like a few things that are necessary. And one is a sense of humor, one is faith, one is self-awareness, and the other is basically just persistence and saying and developing the healthy side of yourself, no matter how psychotic. I don't know. I doubt you. Have you ever been psychotic? I mean, that's where like.
I used to have audible hallucinations, and because I said that around my doctor, I had to get a mental health assessment to keep my license every year. That wasn't covered by my company. Yeah, it seems there were people high up in management that thought I was faking the whole time, even though they're paying a lot of money for those meds that I've been taking. I still take, which I take less of than I did, because I got through the rough spot, and I didn't need so much. I didn't need that kind of a boost because I was like running around 11 all the time. But it was disappointing more than anything to have them reveal that they always thought I was faking too. And some people, because they haven't experienced them themselves, are unable to believe that someone else might be experiencing something like that, even though they have no they have not evidence, but the context. They don't have the context to fully understand it in their life. So therefore, it must not be real. It must be fake. That's some people I knew turned out to be that way, and they weren't doing it to be manipulative or mean. That's just who they were. They couldn't understand it, so they didn't believe it was real.
Right.
And that can be discouraging when it was someone that's a close friend.
Well, I know.
It is what it is.
I know there's a phenomenon called agnosignosia, which is a symptom of serious mental illness where the person is unable to comprehend that they have a mental illness, and that makes recovery and treatment very difficult because, why would you take medication and see a doctor if you don't think there's anything wrong with you? But you bring up a good point, is that in a lot of ways, a lot of other people have agnosignosia about mental illness too, and that it just can't. This happened to me. People would say I not only was that I'm normal and everything, but people would say I'm the sanest person. They would say you're the sanest person I know, Dale, and I'd say, well, you must have known some pretty crazy people then, because I'm not normal. But if you maintain a routine and you maintain yourself day to day, then sometimes it's very hard for people to believe that there's actually something wrong when you do know there's something wrong.
Yeah, especially when you decide to finally apply for the disability tax credit with the government. And then all your work to, because it takes a lot for me to show up in the comments day to day. It's something I know that it returns to me so much by doing it, that it doesn't take long for me to get in there, and I'm able to take whatever resonance places in my heart and fire it back in the comments really fast, and in a way that lands very well with the person the comment's composed for. Because a love of writing is something I enjoy doing, but I don't have to make anything up either. I just take what's in the heart and fire away. So it's real, and they can feel that, and people remember that, and that's why the friends list exploded several times. And it's trying to explode now. I just don't look at it. So that's why I didn't accept your friend's request right away, because there's a lot on the list that I don't get to because it's almost full again, and
Right.
I think there's almost 1,000 people on the waiting list. Almost.
Well, yeah, I think friendship can be sort of a double-edged sword, because sometimes friendship is critical and helping you come to self-awareness and help you come to terms with it. But on the other hand, friends can also be a big obstacle to recovery, because not only because they deny or they don't comprehend your illness, but also because they want to help, but the help they offer is not focused on what you really need.
Yeah. Last Christmas, or maybe the one before, I left before Christmas dinner was served because depression was setting in, and it was setting in hard. And my mother and sister wanted to do something, and I said, and they weren't happy with, I just need you to listen, and they weren't having any of that. But that's what I needed. I just needed to feel heard, to think out loud, and not have someone tell me what to do, because I knew what to do. I just need some acknowledgement that someone was listening, and that was validated later on.
You have 3 email capsules. Do you want to use Samsung email?
No, thank you.
No,
no, thank you.
Those are all the options.
No, there's one more option. I can turn you off. I'm going to turn off. I don't know why this is. Somebody's jealous, I think. Somebody's jealous.
So you were talking about your Christmas dinner and how you needed to be heard.
Yeah, I needed to feel heard. I think that's something everyone needs, to feel heard, like at least once a week, if not more. But that's what I had when I did have a counselor for a little while. After the police were called a few times here, it must have been the screaming. They always brought me McDonald's at the end, which I appreciated, grateful for. Yes, with a counselor, she basically just listened to me. And there was one point she asked me if she was doing any good because she wasn't getting no feedback from anyone that she was working with. So that was my turn to deliver a little light into her day by informing her that yes, she was like a lifesaver. She did the one thing for me that I needed that my family wasn't. She listened to me, and that blew her away, which was my intention, in a good way.
Right.
Good, because I do like I like being the reason for people smiling and laughing, and I can be very effective at doing that in the comments of a live stream. That's where it's made. I made many friends through the keyboard.
Right.
Not a keyboard warrior, because I'm not there to destroy people. I'm there to help them, offer them the inclination to feel better about themselves, and at the very least, and hopefully laugh until you cry.
So you mentioned this. How did you come across the Mental Health Warriors and Adam and this whole organization? Was it sort of random, or was there like a design behind it?
I think it was random. We hadn't. I don't know if we had started the show. It could have been, or he might have been. We all met in the chat room of Raina's show when Comical Raina, and Tino had a Sunday show, Sugar and Spice, I think it was called, and we were always there in the comments, and so that's how we met. It was like a Christmas special where we would come on and do a little bit, and the Mexican Warrior Tino. I remember that. I was so nervous the first time I came live on a stream, on her stream at Christmas show. All you could see was like the top of my head like this, because I was sitting too low. And
I have a tendency to do that too, Robert.
Yeah. I think it was only 3 months later from that time that Simon got messaged Dean and I and asked if we wanted to be on a show, a live stream. And then he said, well, when should we start? I said, we should start tomorrow, because it was like Friday evening. So Saturday morning, we went live 7 a.m. Eastern, and it was like a 3-hour stream the first time. And at first we were hosted on each of our channels, and then I made a channel specifically for the show, and it's still there, the Thrill Dudes. I think it's changed the name slightly, but I still own the channel technically, with Simon and Dean listed as co-owners in the details, the paperwork. And what was the intent? I had gotten into YouTube in 2011 because I saw something in there in the live streaming bit. I saw the future. I saw my future. I didn't. So I turned that. That was enough to inspire me to turn the TV off for good and to stop gaming and get back into investing in me. Being a fan of self-development for a long time. I first read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People at 13. But I was familiar with the concept before that. I used to go on sales calls with my grandfather, and how he would greet his customers. Like first with a big handshake and then a bear hug. And I'm looking up, and he must be really good friends with him. And I don't even know this guy. But all of his customers only bought from him until they died. So he had to keep his business open until he was 88. His last customer died.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is your grandfather, right?
Yeah. Actually, grandpa. But because I had a granddaddy and I had a grandpa. So grandpa was the Canadian, my father's father, and
Okay.
granddaddy was my mother's father. He's from Tennessee. His name was actually Robert. He had a good name, and and Arthur is my middle name. That's my uncle's name. So no mystery as to where my names came from.
So how did you finally encounter Adam?
Oh, I think it was because we were already streaming, doing this Real Dudes. I think he found us that way. Because he would be watching the show as a viewer, and then after the show we would do a off-air hangout for anyone that wanted to hang out with us, and that often lasted 4, 5, 6 hours after the show ended, depending on where the person was. So that was I began doing a watch party for Hiko Simon's show, Tokyo Tonight. I sort of inherited that duty from someone else, but it was so much fun that when our own show began, we had to have the after show,
Right.
and so any of the viewers that wanted to hang out with us and hang out up to 10, of course, because it was Google, they would be there, and that's what I would do on Saturdays after the show was over. Then it was just hangout time, and then I kept running an after show for Tokyo Tonight as well. So there would always be the before and after show. Now I'm just there in the comments, but made a lot of friends that way, a lot of connections, and including political scientists, and that's why I can discuss politics now in a calm, rational way. Unlike some of the politicians who forget that it's a big show, a grand show, and take things personally. And some people think that that's how it's supposed to be taken personally, and some of those are politicians, and that's a little disturbing. But you can always get a hold of them. You can reach them if you want to, because I found myself able to. Again, through the comments of a live stream, it seems that our Prime Minister does pay attention to the live stream comments, and so does the Premier of Ontario. So it was wide open for me to just reach out and say hello in a meaningful way. Right. And I did. I had a vision long ago of being that person, that guy that you only hear whispers about this guy who has the ear of the world's leaders. And it was fun for a while, but it's time to move out of the shadows. It seems the shadows were already full, and now that's become very clear, at least over here. What was in the shadows is now in the light. And
but that's what it says in the Bible. All that is hidden will be revealed. So
yeah,
I think that's one of the ongoing trademarks of what we're going through at this point in Earth's history. Is that more and more things are being revealed, and and so, but so you grew up in Canada or in Vancouver? Where did you grow up?
Oh, Toronto.
Oh, Toronto.
So yeah, not too far from Niagara Falls. And we moved around. I'm Canadian.
No, I was just going to ask, are you still in Toronto? I thought it was Vancouver.
Yes. Oh, no, I've never actually... I've only been there for a changeover, or on the way to Japan, and that's only twice.
Oh, okay.
It's now Kamakorena is there, so she was a pretty significant part of this journey. I remember watching her live stream, and I'm commenting to her, and she's commenting back, answering me, and I'm like, wow, this has never happened before. It was a long time ago. And she's not just saying random comments, she's being very thoughtful and specific with her responses. And I thought that was really cool. And then okay.
And then
and then I'm still here. Yes. So you are. And so am I. We're both here. And the other Robert, I don't know what he's doing, but that's not my problem right now. Yeah, so learning to laugh about things, not take myself so seriously, that mattered. It took until 42 for me to believe that what others thought of me was none of my business. And I could really believe that. And that allowed me to just relax. The tension and anxiety that had been present leading up to that time was nuts. When the anxiety came back, I didn't know what the source was, so I wasn't able to find a solution. But the source revealed itself as someone someone high up in the management of the former employer, because they know how to they're well versed in psychological warfare. The commission was given to the generals from the Korean conflict as a sign of gratitude for their service to run. So it's been run as a military style organization. And I didn't realize that when I started to work there. But when there was an issue and the issue got resolved in a traditional way, from my perspective, if you want something done and it's, you do things have to follow the process, right? But when the process isn't working and you still need the thing done, I didn't have to do anything. My mother did it for me. I would just tell my mother, so are the dividers still not up at work? No, still the same. It was just part of a conversation when I go to have lunch. Because usually that was a weekly thing with my mother. But who she had lunch with a few days later was someone high up in the company, his wife, because she was a secretary for my stepfather's insurance business for 30 years. But her husband was very high up in the company that I worked for, and he made fire and brimstone rain down upon the head of the person in charge of my department. And then they wanted to find out who did it, who spilled the beans. I'm thinking, this was all, and I didn't think it was a big deal, that because I didn't actually go to him and say it. I just told my mother because my mother asked, and
Right.
she's my mother. You talk to your mother about stuff like this. Hopefully, it was just a day-to-day thing. It was hard to do my job with the way the office was in its current state. It had been that way for 7 months. It was getting old.
Right.
But it got fixed. That's all I care about. Other people cared about other things, and but everyone got what they wanted at the end. I think so. Anyways, I found myself doing something else that I had no idea I was going to enjoy so much. So much so that everyone, all of my customers, would ask me if I was having fun or not. And I said, I am. Yeah, you can tell. They would say, I was driving a bus, driving a city bus, driving a transit bus, public transit.
Oh, okay.
That was a lot of fun. I loved that. I loved it.
And it was just like an inner city bus that you did the routes and everything, and
yeah,
or was it long distance busing?
No, it wasn't long distance, inner city. And there were times where I was doing double shifts, paying the alimony from the first marriage. There were times I had to do some double shifts to have money for gas and food after the alimony got done. But I looked forward to those because that was in the days when I had learned it's better in some cases not to look for anyone's approval. If you know what you're doing is right and you believe it, don't tell anyone, don't give someone an opportunity to bring you down or criticize you if they're not the person directly involved in helping you become what you want to be. And right. So I used to look forward to the overtime just because there would always be something happen in each one of those shifts, and it always did happen. There would be a moment that would be created, a moment in time would be created with another person that I didn't know that had the potential to be a cherished lifetime memory. And So moments like that, I would manifest every overtime shift, every double shift, every time I worked extra. And
Right.
then I began to do it every time I rode the subway home from work. That would happen before I got home, some moment like that. And they got to the point where I was really excited to finish my shift. And because I knew that was about to happen with someone I'd never met before. And it always did. And it only took 40 minutes to get home. So that's not a lot of time, but it didn't matter because time can slow down. Time can stand still when you're really in the flow, and everything that needs to happen can happen. And it's a wonderful thing.
So just to clarify for myself, so what you're saying is that while you were doing this bus, you were doing bus driving and also the subway home, then every day would be like a new revelation of like that would enlighten you further. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it'd be like sort of not necessarily that. There would be some enlightenment. There would be just a creation of manifesting a moment in time that you and another, at least one other, that was of the quality that deserves to be a lifetime cherished memory.
Oh, okay.
So I was creating, that's what I mean.
So it's a lifetime cherished memory you're talking about rather than like a specific revelation or something.
Right. So, and I still, like, every day I did that. That happened. And that was going to be my favorite part of the day. Because I never knew how it was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen. And that's exercising faith in an absolute way, as I used to say. And people keep praying for faith. And we're born with all the faith we need. We just need to exercise it regularly. And
that's an excellent way to overcome depression too. If every day you're having a cherished lifetime memory, then depression becomes sort of secondary because you're having so much fun. And if you do get depressed, you can just think back on the cherished memories, right?
Yeah, and that's where things get complicated with tax credits, because if I don't do that, if I don't keep on top of that, then the depression is there as a baseline. Because
right.
That's it. And that people just, they don't look past the surface. They say, you look happy, you're not depressed, and they deny you. And it really keeps mental health something that doesn't get helped, doesn't get spoken about because of that. You have people superficially judging this and judging that when no one has any business judging anything of the sort.
Well, I've always found that the judgment I placed on myself was probably a lot more severe than even the judgment of the doctors or the other people, because it's just like you feel guilt, when you have a mental illness, you feel that you brought it, it's your fault, and that can be like very destructive to your self-image.
It can be. Once you realize it was not your fault, it's just what is, and there doesn't this people. There's no need to judge something. You don't have to judge something and like to stick a label on it and file it away before you move on. It's okay to just observe it and see it and continue on your way. You don't. The habit of judging is not one that serves anybody well, unless you're judging somebody's work, and for good reason. To judge on others, to make sure that you'll be also judged, and learning to take it easy on me was a hard thing to do, but it was worth it.
It's a snowballing spiral.
Yeah, but it's an ongoing work in progress always.
Right.
It's not suddenly, oh, you're better now. Life isn't like that. Life is like a flow. Life flows, energy flows, and it takes when you're doing whatever you're doing, good or bad. If you're starting off with the best of intentions and following through for yourself, you're going to have some spectacular results. But people don't people think you just suddenly were like that overnight. They don't realize you've been at it for like 10 or more years, just a little bit each day. It can come down to just deciding when something happens where the potential to go south, to go see it in the wrong way is there, and you choose not to. That's a victory that needs to be celebrated. And that's
Right.
huge, even though it's like it was just a time, one moment in time, one decision. But that to decide the other way and to keep at that could ruin somebody's life. Maybe not just your own, but someone else's too.
Right.
And so
Well,
labels are for spices, not for people.
Right. So we're getting near the end, but I just wanted to circle back to one thing you said about laughing at yourself and how you so admire Tom Selleck for being able to laugh at himself and everything, and that was basically the essence of my illness when I got sick or got taken away from Dartmouth College. Is I said I was God, and then I would laugh and see. Because I thought it was the funniest joke I'd ever heard, because I'd ever come up with. Because how could God be 5'8"? So.
Well, we don't know though.
Right, but
isn't that interesting? I'm also 5'8".
Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Baseball.
you also think you're God?
I think that we are. It says we are created in His image, and that we are capable. Because of that, we can do all things that He did. But where we get tripped up is believing that we can and having faith. We have what we need, but knowing what to do with that is probably pretty far down the road.
Right.
But there's always outliers.
The point I was going to make is that as I went on, I was like, the more I tried to laugh at myself, the more people would like react against me, and it just became a self-fulfilling prophecy until the point where it was very hard for me to laugh at myself because I've been so programmed that laughing at myself was such a bad thing, and I just I don't really have a point about this, but I just like in my own history that's something that I've noticed is that now I can laugh at myself and people appreciate it, but for a long time when I laughed at myself they would think it was a sign of psychosis.
For me it was because it was so hard for me to learn how to take it easy on me and to believe that what others think of me is none of my business. I no longer cared about the other people. I became, I don't know, unflappable for quite a while.
Right.
And often I can be that way because there's no reason not to be. I'm usually, when I see someone, I'm usually happy to see them. And so that's not really a thought, it's a feeling. And as feelings are part of language as a subconscious anyways, and they're going to arrive before the thought has a chance to even form. That's a better way to operate, in my opinion. I love people and I'm happy to see them, and that's usually the first thing they get from me before I even open my mouth.
Right. Well, so we're almost at a time, Robert, but thank you for your wisdom, thank you for your insights, thank you for your stories, and do you have anything you'd like to say in summary to take this out?
In summary, I never was good at that. I was random. Being random is something that I am good at. But let me just say that I appreciate what you do in your show. It contributes to the inclination to live within an attitude of gratitude, and I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm always like so glad when you're blowing up the chat and making comments and everything, and it's difficult for me to like read the comments as well as
I can get carried away, but It's for after though. My comments age well, like a fine cheddar.
Right. But okay, well, thank you very much, and look forward to. So, do you have any plans for the immediate future, or you just what endeavors do you have?
I have there's a need to generate additional income, very pressing need. But there's not a desire to do so because I shouldn't have to do it. Getting over that, shouldn't have to do it because my pension was interfered with from the former in-laws, and them spreading manure about me that I didn't know about and I still don't know what they said. And I probably a good idea that I never find out. But it was bad enough that it did inspire the constructive dismissal that led to my pension being reduced. And so getting past that, when I think of a job, I think of working for someone else's dream. And after I left, hearing her mother scream through the phone that the wife was holding at me to get a job, this all happened because of you and your husband. And they bragged about it to me after when Sarah left. So it's not like my imagination or anything. They bragged that they were the reason that we never were able to break even. And that's just, I didn't want to think about what that's like, what that says about somebody.
Right.
But yeah, so that 4.5 years where I was focused on helping her become more social, at least got her to say that. It was her choice. She has Asperger's and a scientist with a doctorate. She was able to say that she chose the comfort her parents were offering her when faced with the adversity, which her parents were supplying, by the way, up here, or having comfort down there, and plus a good job. She didn't go into cancer research. She was tired of messing with mouse lungs, but she added full stack development to her repertoire up here, and she's working at some kind of controller or something for the city of Little Rock, making good bucks, good money.
Right.
So I don't know where I was going with that.
Well,
I don't know.
you were talking.
It was all my fault.
You were talking about getting a job yourself, and
that I don't. That's like, I don't see myself doing that. I kind of would rather die than work for someone else's dream after going through what I went through.
Right.
It can be traumatic just to ride the subway train now. It's not any fun. Because I really enjoyed that. And it's disappointing in how small-minded some people can be. Very disappointing. That's all I have to say about it. I have my, like, it kind of separated me from the family, even thanks to someone my brother went out with for a while, hooked up with. And I'm thinking, maybe she's part of the elite, plant by the elites to create further divide and disruption. I don't know. But COVID had me here alone, isolated. But it also allowed me to experience Christmas without the traditional Christmas depression. And that was by avoiding the huge, that's happened twice now. And I apologize to Jeffrey Gittimer. I'm so grateful for what he did during COVID, that 9:59 stream he did 7 days a week. And I deliberately missed the Christmas one after the first one. The first one was so good. And then I spiraled deep into depression after that, because that's how good it was, that I had nothing else because there was already a thing, COVID. And then that was also the last time I talked to a friend of mine who died Christmas Eve night, like really shortly after I spoke to him, like texting, he died, and major heart attack. He was a big time smoker, and so that made that Christmas not very, very pleasant. But I didn't even find out about it for a week and a half until I went to his house, because I was in the area, and that's when his roommate said he died, and I was like, whoa. So, but anyways.
Well, sorry to hear that.
It was a few years ago now. Grateful I had the friendship though.
Right.
Better I would have preferred. I'm rather would have had the friendship and lose him than not have known him.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Robert, and we'll look forward to talking to you in the future. And thank you for all your contributions. And have a great day. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's been a very interesting and enlightening conversation. And thanks very much. And I hope to see you next week. And take care.